The Red Sox are about to get a big boost back in Roman Anthony, and I absolutely cannot wait to see it all unfold.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian. It's middle of the week, so happy Wednesday. And the Red Sox have officially clinched the series against the Diamondbacks with a 9-4 win last night after coming off of an 11-1 win the night before. So the Red Sox bats the last couple of nights have been on fire. 13 hits for them last night. I'm going to be discussing a little bit more about that game and what I liked from it on today's show. Should Roman Anthony hit leadoff upon his return, and what everybody's buzzing about the rehab assignment for Roman Anthony that started in Portland last night. So obviously there's been a lot of buzz surrounding the injured players and guys who are going to be coming back to this Red Sox team, and whether guys coming back from injury is going to throw off the chemistry that this team has right now, or if guys coming back are going to be able to contribute and give this team a boost heading into the playoffs, because we're now in crunch time. Once we hit mid-August, I consider that crunch time because you only have a handful of weeks left in the regular season. And it's going to get to the point soon where the Red Sox are talking about clinching a playoff spot. And in order to clinch a playoff spot, they have to keep this momentum going and keep winning games. So they could use all the help they can get. And that's where the question comes up of, are some of these guys going to be more of a help or more of a harm? And Roman Anthony is a guy whose 2026 numbers prior to going on the injured list weren't exactly where they were in his rookie season. Before getting hurt, he had 25 hits over 109 at-bats with one home run, a 229 batting average, 354 on-base percentage, 321 slugging, and 675 OPS. To go along with that, he had 12 runs scored, 5 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases. So those numbers aren't great, but they're not awful. He just wasn't the contact hitter that people were hoping that he would be when you compare him to where he was at last year. Because last year we saw a guy who was able to make a lot of noise at the plate and he was just hitting with confidence. Whereas this year, in the first month of the season, he wasn't hitting with as much confidence. And obviously you could pinpoint some of that to the injury because, again, he hasn't played in so long. But he was excited to be back out there last night, and he had a big game in Portland. And that was exactly what was needed because he sent the Red Sox a message of, hey, I'm here and I'm ready to go. So Chad Tracy was talking about Roman prior to him starting his rehab. And he basically shared that he wanted to take things slow when it came to both Roman Anthony and Trevor Story, who I talked about on the show the other day. Because both of these guys have missed so much time, this isn't going to be a quick process to just get them back up to the major league team. The Red Sox need to be reassured that these guys are ready to come back before they just let them come back. So Chad Tracy explained that. And as Roman began his rehab in Portland yesterday, he basically talked about just how excited he was to just be back out there swinging a bat in a game again and hearing the fans and being reminded of how great Red Sox fans are, and just seeing people show up in Portland was really meaningful for him. And he mentioned specifically that just that feeling of being able to play in a live game again just felt so cool to him because it had been so long for him. And mentally, he was able to get through this time because he just kept thinking about inching closer and closer. And during his rehab, he was taking it day by day, leaning on people close to him for support. And he was able to get to a point where he was able to stay positive because he kept saying, as long as I'm making strides every day, I'll be able to come back. And what a game it was for him. It was his first baseball game since May 4th. So put that into perspective. That's over 3 months ago. So he hasn't seen live pitching in over 3 months. So pretty crazy. You don't really know what kind of player you're going to get. And he was working his way back from a partially torn ligament at the base of his ring finger. And it just didn't take him long to get comfortable. He stepped up to the plate for the Sea Dogs with a runner on first and 2 outs in the 5th inning. And he turned on a first pitch breaking ball, crushing a home run that flew way out of the ballpark. And it probably still hasn't landed now, if we're being honest with you. And it was just an absolutely beautiful swing. The extension, the location, the contact he was able to make. It just felt like a clean Roman Anthony swing. And that was very refreshing to see. He smoked it. It was an absolute mammoth, but it wasn't his first hard contact of the night because in the 3rd inning, he singled in his second plate appearances. And he actually, in that plate appearance, ended up sharply lining a ball towards shortstop. And the third baseman, it looked like, was in position to make a play on it. At least I thought he was going to, but it just was hit too hard and it went right past him, leading to a clean single. So a couple hard hit balls for Roman on the night. And he also drew a walk off the opposing starting pitcher in his first plate appearance, swinging just once when he fouled off a curveball on a 1-1 count in the 6 pitches that he saw there. And then he walked again in his follow-up plate appearance following the home run, that time seeing just 4 pitches. He was then replaced for a pinch runner, ending the night 2 for 2 with a home run, single, and 2 walks. So this whole night pretty much encompasses a lot of Roman Anthony's strengths. For a long time on this show, I've been talking about how much I've seen power from him in the minors. And when he was coming up through the system, he was able to put a lot of that raw power on display. But then when he got up to the majors, he wasn't exactly showing that power and it wasn't clicking for him. He wasn't getting the home runs as much and he just wasn't finding his stride when it came to being able to barrel the ball. And that's a strong asset of his game. So if he's able to find that at the major league level, he's truly going to unlock a new level of his play that a lot of people haven't seen before. And I know it's in him because I saw it when he was in AAA before he got called up, but he just hasn't been able to fully unlock that part of his game yet in the majors. But he showed his ability to make hard contact in last night's game with the home run and the single. And the biggest compliment I have when it comes to Roman Anthony and his game is his plate discipline. He is so mature beyond his years at the plate, and it impresses me more and more every time that I watch him play. He has such a good eye, doesn't chase much at all, and just knows what he should and shouldn't be swinging at. And Red Sox manager Chad Tracy, back when he was managing the Woo Sox and Roman Anthony, when he was still playing in Worcester, I actually asked Chad Tracy about Roman specifically and what could make him a very special player when he eventually gets called up to the majors. And Trace highlighted specifically that. He said his plate discipline and his ability to make really wise swing decisions, which you can't really teach at this level. And he already has it, and he's 19 years old. At the time he was. So that aspect of his game, he clearly still has with the 2 walks. So that's why it's exciting thinking about the idea of him coming back and contributing. It just would have been difficult to be able to draw up a better night than that for him. He's super excited about his progress in this game and what he was able to do. Specifically, he highlighted in terms of boxes that he was able to check were his check swings in batting practice and in the game where he felt no pain, because that was the first goal, was to just swing the bat and get himself moving around and see if he felt any pain. And he said he did not. So that was a good step for him in the right direction. Obviously, it came as an added plus that he was able to have a couple big hits in the game too, but his goal was just to not feel any pain when he was swinging, and those check swings in BP, when he didn't feel the pain, that's when he knew he was definitely making progress for the better. So that was a positive. He talked about how it was just a long process for him, and it took a lot longer than he could have expected when he first did it. but he said that he's happy that it's all behind him and he can just play baseball now. And that's what he's focusing on. And when you're out for that long, it can be really discouraging and it can be hard to stay focused. And that's why he highlighted the mentality of him being able to say, I was just taking it day by day and making sure I made some progress every day to be able to come back. And when I was making progress, it made me more excited and feeling optimistic. So that definitely helped him get through it. But being able to be in a game helped his mentality a lot too. And another interesting thing that he had said was that he felt like when he hit that home run that he was debuting at Fenway again, because there were some nerves there because it had been a while since he had been in a live game. So he just thought it was kind of cool that he was back in game action, and it kind of felt unreal to the point where it felt like his debut again. So that was something that I found very interesting and kind of funny that he said. In terms of when he plays next, Chad Tracy said that the next day would be a scheduled hybrid day. So essentially what that means is that today the team will gauge how he feels before determining whether he'll be back in the starting lineup. He seemed to think post-game last night that he would play again tonight, but the Red Sox are going to evaluate. And if he's not feeling 100%, they're going to give him the day off, and then he'll be back in the lineup on Thursday in Portland. So it was definitely a successful night for him. And I'm just very excited for the Red Sox to get him back, because obviously they can use all the help they can get. And just the combination of patience, power, and lineup versatility that he provides, those are all things that Boston has lacked a little bit during portions of his absence. So him being able to provide a steady presence that can bring all three of those things to the table, that's going to definitely be helpful. So I'm very excited for when Roman does come back. And the other biggest takeaway from Roman, despite the fact that he looked super comfortable out there, which was really notable too, it looked like he hadn't missed a beat, was his comments on Marcelo Meyer and him being traded. And he talked about how they still talk a lot. He was happy for Marcelo and the opportunity that he was given to start fresh and get a clean slate. And he's hoping that Marcelo gets to come to Boston at some point, because he would think that'd be pretty cool. But he also said, you know, some guys get traded. I'm used to that. I've had guys that I was close with get traded before, but we still stay close. So he essentially reiterated that it was sad because they were roommates for so long, but he knows it's part of the game, and he knows that they'll stay really close and that they'll stay super good friends. So ultimately they'll still keep in touch, keep in contact, but he knows that it's a good opportunity for Marcelo to be able to get a fresh start. So he was very candid about how he felt about the situation, and ultimately knows that it's just part of the game. So success comes with working hard, and you got both of those things from Roman last night, showing that he was successful in his rehab outing because he's worked so hard during his buildup to come back into live game action. And he definitely deserved the loud standing ovation that he got during this game from the Portland crowd as well. So it was great to see him moving around again. It was great to see him back out there. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do upon his return, because the Red Sox could definitely use the face of the franchise back in the lineup as they work their way into the postseason race. So we'll see how he does upon his return. But coming up, should he actually be hitting in the Red Sox leadoff spot? Make baseball season more this year. On Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade on every single game. What you do is you go on their website and search for any game you want. So I'm going to use today's Red Sox Diamondbacks game. Currently, the Red Sox are trading at a 57% chance to beat the Diamondbacks. So essentially what that means is that making a $100 trade gives you a payout of $169.91. So you're profiting, which is really nice. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, which means there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. Download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade. $10. Kalshi, Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Roman Anthony is making his way back to the Boston Red Sox, and if last night's performance from him indicates anything, it's that he's getting closer and closer. And it can be difficult for guys who are on rehab or who have missed a lot of time because naturally they can put pressure on themselves. And Roman has always been a very humble player, but also a player who does hold himself to a very high standard, which is a good quality to have. Those are the types of guys that often find a lot of success because they don't settle. And Roman's definitely one of those players who just is always striving to get better. And that shows every time he's on the field. So a guy like that missing a lot of time who just loves the game of baseball is really difficult. So for Roman and his confidence, it was good to see him back out there. And he definitely feels this sense of, yeah, I'm getting closer to coming back and I can feel it now after playing in game action. So that was definitely great to see. And as he continues to work his way back from his rehab, the question becomes, where does he hit in the lineup? Because Chad Tracy has already expressed that they're planning on having Roman hit in the leadoff spot when he comes back. They're preparing for that. They said that that was the plan. He has hit in the leadoff spot prior for the Red Sox, and he was used to hitting in the leadoff spot in the minors. So even though he got off to a slow start to the season with, like I said, a 675 OPS, that level of production would still represent a slight upgrade from what the Red Sox have received from their replacement options at the top of the batting order. Since Roman went on the IL, Red Sox leadoff hitters have actually generated a 215 average, 292 on base percentage, and 367 slugging percentage. And I hate to be that person, but a lot of that has to do with Jarren Duran because he has occupied that leadoff spot in the Red Sox lineup for a good portion of the season, and he just hasn't been able to get back to his 2024 form. And that's been a massive issue because the Red Sox were hoping to get more productivity from Jarren Duran. They missed out on trading him when they should have, when his value was higher. And when they didn't, the expectation was, okay, we're keeping him around because we expect that he's going to provide that versatility that he provided for us over his career up to this point. And the versatility definitely in ways is still there. You see the speed still. You see the good defense that he's playing in the outfield, but his bat all season long just hasn't been able to find that consistency. And the other guys that they've slotted into the leadoff spot also haven't been overly consistent. I like Nick Sogard a lot, but he's definitely not a long-term leadoff hitter for this team. So I think with where the Red Sox are at right now, they feel like putting Roman into the leadoff spot ultimately makes a lot of sense. So there's pros and cons to putting Roman in the leadoff spot. One of the pros is that he has that high on base skill because this is a player that has a keen eye, like I said, and just draws a lot of walks, which automatically ensures that he gets on base at a high rate. When you're a disciplined hitter, you know you're going to be a guy who's going to work counts and be able to get on base more because of that. And since he has that skill set, that naturally leads to putting pressure on opposing pitchers. Today's game often does put one of the team's best dynamic hitters at the top rather than relying strictly on traditional base stealing speed. So that would be falling under that philosophy if they were putting Roman back in the leadoff spot, is because he is considered one of their best overall hitters when he's healthy. So that would follow along with that. And it forces opposing starters into high pitch first innings because if Roman's hitting leadoff, you know that he's going to see that pitcher more than once. And if he's able to work the counts early, then automatically that pitcher is going to start to get rattled. So then the second time through, when they see Roman again, maybe they're a little bit more conservative and it throws off their game a little bit. So those are all arguments that you can make for why Roman should hit in the leadoff spot. Now, there are arguments against it. And like I said, pros and cons. The power potential, like I mentioned before, his growing power profile and the ability I know that he has to be a power hitter could work better in the middle of the order. Like, for example, maybe the 4 or 5 spot to drive in runs. The thing with that is if you stick him in the 3, 4, or 5 spots, you already have Wilyer Abreu in the 3 spot and Wilson Contreras in the 4. And those guys have performed really well in those spots. So if you move one of them, then you're kind of throwing something off a little bit and hoping that they're still able to be in rhythm, because if it's not broken, don't fix it is something that I always like to say. And when guys are hitting well in the spot they're in, you don't necessarily want to move them. And then they recently moved Adley Rutschman into the 5 hole, who I'm going to be talking about in the next segment, but he looks comfortable there too. So then you could slot Roman into the 6 spot if you're going to keep guys in their spots that they're already in that you're comfortable with. And even with Cedar Rafaela being in the 2 hole, maybe they want to keep him there. Then you're looking at Roman hitting in the middle of the order, which from a power perspective could make sense. There's also speed constraints. He's not exactly a burner on the base paths compared to guys like Jarren Duran or Cedar Rafaela. And this is why they've stuck with having Cedar in the 2 hole, because they want speed at the top of the lineup. Jarren Duran obviously provides the speed, but was hitting lower after he struggled in the leadoff spot this year because they want to separate the speed a little bit. So putting Roman up top, he doesn't give you that speed. Lineup protection is another thing to think about, because moving him down could yield better RBI opportunities or force pitchers to throw him more strikes. So those are arguments as to why he maybe shouldn't hit leadoff, but ultimately at the end of the day, if Chad Tracy said that he's going to be hitting in the leadoff spot, then that is where he's going to end up. But if they wanted to do some maneuvering and they wanted to move things around and they wanted him to be lower on in the order, maybe they flop him with Adley Rutschman and they move Adley down to 6th and they put Roman in the 5 hole, and then you're keeping Wilson Contreras and Wilyer Abreu in their spots, and you're also keeping Cedar in his spot in the 2 hole, and then you would probably go back to a rotating leadoff hitter like they've been doing as of late. Masataka Yoshida has gotten some at-bats in the leadoff spot, so they're kind of trying out different people there and just kind of seeing how things go, but it sounds like they're pretty set on making Roman the permanent leadoff hitter upon his return, which ideally, if it works out, will help provide some stability going into the postseason, and guys could get used to that new look batting order with Roman at the top. Now, in terms of where he fits from a lineup construction standpoint, he will definitely be getting some time in left field, but he'll also be getting some time at DH. Because the thing is, if the Red Sox say, yeah, he's going to be our everyday left fielder, then what do you do with Jarren Duran? You kind of do need that speed in the lineup somewhere. And if you have Roman playing left field, then you're looking at a scenario in which Jarren Duran's probably DHing. And again, this goes back to the whole outfield complication maneuver, which I talked about extensively during the offseason. And earlier on in this season, is when all the outfielders are healthy, what do you even do? Because now there's the odd man out again in Masataka Yoshida, who is just kind of there. And the Red Sox haven't been able to get him some more at-bats as of late with Roman out, because the outfield is set when you have Cedar in center, Wilyer in right, and then you have Jarren in left. So therefore, those guys are all sticking to the outfield every day. And then you have Masa, who can DH on days where the Red Sox feel like it's appropriate. But Roman coming back creates even less playing time for Masa Yoshida. And then you're looking at a guy like Eli White, who has been very productive since the Red Sox acquired him at the trade deadline, who is a bench piece in the outfield. He'll probably stay in a similar role and not play in a lot of games, but could be a spark plug off the bench. Jahmai Jones probably falls into that same category. You definitely want to have extra players who come in off the bench, but Masa's making a lot of money right now, and there just isn't really necessarily a spot for him upon Roman coming back. So that's something that the Red Sox are going to have to navigate. Obviously, Yoshida's hurt right now, so we're going to have to await news on when exactly he could be coming back. So in the near term, the Red Sox won't really have to deal with that issue. But in the longer term, once Yoshida is healthy and ready to come back from his injury, the Red Sox are going to have to make some of those types of decisions when it comes to the roster. So those moves are going to have to be made and decisions going to have to be made on the roster, but there's no denying the fact that Roman Anthony would provide a big boost for this team. I absolutely 100% feel so confident that he'll feel so rejuvenated upon coming back from his injury and coming back to the major league team. Is that swing going to be able to translate back to the majors because he hasn't seen major league pitching in a while? That's the biggest question that I have going into this next month or so, is how is what he just did in Portland last night going to translate? But once he gets into the routine and into the swing of things, his plate discipline and power potential are going to be things that are going to help provide this Red Sox team a boost, and a very exciting boost going into what will hopefully be a deep and exciting postseason run that extends deep into October. So we'll have to see how things continue to go for Roman during his rehab. But coming up, the Red Sox with a big win last night over the Diamondbacks, and I'm going to be discussing that. A big thank you to our friends over at Amazon for this limited break, because this back to school season, spend less on your kids with Amazon. Everybody knows how crazy the back to school shopping experience can be. It starts with just a few items on your list, and then suddenly you're shopping for supplies, clothes, lunch gear, technology, and about 10 other things that you didn't see coming. So it really does add up fast. When you look at the school supply list and wonder if you're shopping for one child or opening a small office supply store, I didn't realize first grade required this much inventory. Shopping like this can get out of control if you're not careful. Or when the school says your child needs a calculator or headphones or a tablet for class, and somehow you're buying another one before the semester is halfway over. Since when did kids need so much technology for third grade? So remember, with Amazon's low back-to-school prices, just spend less on your kids, because every dollar you don't spend on them is a dollar you haven't spent on them. Shop back to school at Amazon and spend less on your kids. You can save so much money on Amazon, and honestly time too, as opposed to just spending hours in the store. You can just place the order online. So it's definitely highly convenient for when the school year starts. 9-4 Red Sox win last night against the Diamondbacks, and I loved every second of it. Red Sox offense once again exploded for 13 hits after a 16-hit night and 11-run outing the night prior. Now, Patrick Sandoval, in his recent outings, this was a guy that I talked about recently who we should be concerned about, potentially could see another IL stint. Is he going to be somebody that the Red Sox can rely on? Jake Bennett, a starting pitcher that I talked about as potentially somebody to keep an eye on in terms of his ability to provide length moving forward. But Ranger Suarez generally has been a reliable starter for this Red Sox team this season. But he threw in last night's game 5 1/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Now, he gave up all 4 runs on a grand slam. And that's the biggest thing, is that when you look at a pitcher's stat line, sometimes it can be a little bit deceiving, because you see 4 earned runs and you're like, wow, what a not great outing for him. But he made one mistake to Gabriel Moreno. And granted, he didn't do himself any favors in that outing, because he gave up a couple singles and then hit Corbin Carroll with a pitch before giving up the grand slam. So his command in that inning wasn't necessarily there, and he was kind of all over the place, and it ultimately led to the grand slam. So that inning for him, the third inning, wasn't great. But if you look at the outing overall, outside of that one mistake, it was a decent outing. He still got through 5 1/3 innings and threw 93 pitches. He recovered very well after that. And that's why, to me, the Red Sox can trust Ranger Suarez as a number 3 starter. That's about where he is this season, and that's about the level that he's been throwing at. And especially if, and this is a huge if, Garrett Crochet comes back this season, then you're looking at a strong 1-2-3 with Crochet, Sonny Gray, and Ranger Suarez. I'm not rattled by his performance last night. Obviously, could have been better than it was, and things got a little bit sloppy for him. But overall, he was able to clean things up outside of that one inning. So he definitely helped the Red Sox in this effort. And another thing that I really liked about this was Adley Rutschman's performance, the star on offense. He went 2 for 4 with a run scored and drove in 3 runs. Also crushed his first home run in a Red Sox uniform and took a walk. So it was a big night for Adley at the plate. And I mentioned when he was hitting third that the Red Sox should consider moving him back to the 5 hole. And what do you know? The last couple nights, he's been hitting in the 5 hole and he's been really smoking the ball and he's looked confident. And I also felt like being back at Fenway would be huge for him because going on the road with the team to start his Red Sox career, if you will, is difficult. Being in front of the home crowd where people are embracing you and are excited about you is a lot different. So to see him going out there and hitting with confidence was great to see. So big night for Adley. Hopefully a lot more to come. Hopefully this is just the start of big things for him and this gets him going a little bit. Mickey Gasper also a standout from this game. He went 2 for 2 with a run scored, drove in 2 runs, took 2 walks, and hit a home run for the second night in a row. Crushed a 4-seamer to center field. And it was great to see because his home run from the night before barely got over the pesky pole to be a home run. But Mickey Gasper is genuinely one of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life. He's so polite and he's just always giving a good attitude every day. And that's exactly the kind of player that you want on the team. And so he's always just a pleasure to talk to. So I love seeing him succeed. And Mickey's taken a lot. He has gone from AAA to the majors to AAA to the majors. He's kind of bounced back and forth, but he still gives 100% no matter where he's at. And he has been crushing it in Worcester this season, especially as of late. So he earned the opportunity to come back up and make an impact again on the major league team. And he certainly has made noise. And this most recent game was no exception to that. Second straight night with a home run for Mickey. So he was definitely another standout in this game. So overall, definitely some good stuff. Wyatt Olds appeared once again after making his major league debut on Monday night. And he brought some good stuff to the game on Tuesday through the final inning, giving up 1 hit, no runs with 1 strikeout. Took him just 11 pitches, 7 strikes to get out of the inning and win the game ultimately at that point. Ranger Suarez was credited with this win, but Olds definitely deserves a lot of credit because this is the second night in a row where he impressed and his stuff has always been good. He has a nasty slider that can be unhittable when it's at its best. And he has a good arsenal like I talked about on the show yesterday. So if he continues to utilize those pitches in the right spots, he can continue to be a reliable piece. And if he continues to produce, maybe the Red Sox keep him around on major league roster for the postseason. So that was another notable thing that I took away from this game. Tyrone Guerrero, can't take away from how much success he's had this year. He has been so reliable overall for the Red Sox out of the pen as well this season. So another big game for the Boston Red Sox. They clinched the series win. Now today, can they clinch a sweep? And it felt like for a while, all they were doing was sweeping every team. Now they have kind of dropped down with that a little bit and come back down to earth. But can they sweep the Diamondbacks? Time will tell. I'm very excited to see how things go down and to see how the Red Sox are able to finish off the rest of this regular season. So we'll have to see how it all plays out. But thank you so much for tuning into Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen of every single day. Now on video, I send you to the first ever 24/7 YouTube channel on MLB. And on audio, check out Locked On MLB Game Night for your second listen. Thanks so much as always. Keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.